Hello everyone, I am the real King of BC, and today you're watching the evolution of, but this time it's the evolution of Scooby and Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Honestly, I've actually wanted to talk about Scooby-Doo for a while on this channel, and now I finally have the opportunity to. Scooby-Doo is a franchise that has been around for a very long time. Originally it started in 1968 and was created by Hanna-Barbara, and it's been around for at least 50 years. I know that's a bit hard to believe, but it's true. Scooby-Doo has been around for a very long time. And I've wanted to do a video on it. And today, specifically, I'm actually going to be talking about two characters that, for a lot of people, might actually be their favorite characters of the Scooby Gang. The two characters I'm talking about specifically are Scooby and Shaggy. Because throughout the years, Scooby and Shaggy have actually developed into really defined and more fleshed out characters. Both of them were very bland before, but as time went on, they actually got very interesting. Like, way more interesting than anyone would have expected from a stoner kid and his dog. Right. Or, I'm sorry, a hippie kid and his dog. Anyway. Honestly, I've been a casual fan of Scooby-Doo, but there's been a lot of interesting things about Scooby and Shaggy that I have just loved. I just love their characters. I love the fact that even though they're cowards, they still will do these completely ridiculous things that might actually end up hurting them in the end. It's actually pretty funny to see their reactions because of how cowardly they are, but at the same time, there have been a couple times where Scooby and Shaggy have shown that they can hang with the big boys, you know? They put on their big boy pants and shown that they can be just as brave as anyone else in the whole room, right? While those moments are few and far between, they still happen. They don't happen as often, sure, but when they do, they stick out really well. And it's actually one of the things that makes Scooby and Shaggy such interesting characters, you know? They actually do have a fleshed out personality. There have been multiple shows and multiple movies, and, of course, comics based on Scooby-Doo. And some of those shows and some of those movies are mostly dedicated to Scooby and Shaggy, specifically. And I'm going to be talking about them here today on the evolution of. And we're going to be talking about them right now. So stay tuned for more. I'm sure we're all familiar with the history of Scooby-Doo at this point. Originally, Scooby-Doo came out in 1968 and premiered on Cartoon Network. As we all know, Scooby-Doo was originally created by Hanna-Barbera. The original version of Scooby-Doo, the characters were not very interesting. It was a fun show to watch, sure, but the characters weren't all that. They were very one-dimensional. It wasn't until years later in which the cast would actually become much more interesting. Specifically, Scooby and Shaggy. In the beginning, Scooby and Shaggy were just the cowards that would get into all types of shenanigans with the monsters. And sometimes Scooby and Shaggy would actually help the gang catch the monsters. Usually they were just portrayed as bumbling cowards. I think this is my least favorite version of Scooby and Shaggy because they weren't very interesting. Most of what they did was just run from monsters and just act like cowards and eat. They weren't that interesting to watch. But it wasn't bad. It was entertaining enough. And honestly, I still enjoyed it as a young kid. But there is another version of Scooby-Doo that I do like better. that version, there are other versions of Scooby-Doo that actually did develop the characters, and Scooby and Shaggy specifically actually got more development in movies than they did in TV shows. Though there was a show in which they actually did get development. Or, I guess, a couple, depending on how you look at it. But, yeah, Scooby and Shaggy did get more development as time went on. But the specific movie that I want to talk about is Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, which is a very interesting piece in itself. Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School is a very interesting movie because in this movie, Scooby and Shaggy are basically teachers to monster girls. Which is actually pretty funny because usually Scooby and Shaggy are running away from the monsters and not actually teaching them. So it was a nice spin for Scooby-Doo because they usually catch the monsters. Anyway, this movie perfectly showed that Scooby and Shaggy, even though they're still pretty cowardly at times, they can actually be decent teachers. Sure, they're not like high school teacher level, or even college professors, but honestly, they're not that bad. They're definitely able to teach the girls a thing or two about a thing or two. Scooby and Shaggy are definitely not exactly the people that I thought were right for the job, but apparently they were. They did their jobs really well. So yeah, Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School is a fairly memorable movie. I'm not sure if anybody remembers it, but I actually used to watch it. It used to play sometimes on Cartoon Network, here or there. Honestly, I thought it was a fine movie. It showed that Scooby and Shaggy could be more than just two cowards who just run around and help catch the monsters. They can be their own people too. This movie did a decent job in fleshing out Scooby and Shaggy's characters a little further than usual. Right. So, while it's not necessarily the best Scooby-Doo movie, honestly, it's actually pretty good in my opinion. For that alone. Pretty memorable. Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School is definitely one of the better Scooby-Doo movies. Though I'm not entirely sure if it's like on-demand type movie, but whatever. I thought it was good. But yeah, it actually did showcase really well that Scooby and Shaggy can be decent teachers, and it actually made them fairly interesting, and they weren't just one note. Right, so yeah, it's a good movie all around. But next I'm actually going to be talking about a show that I'm not entirely sure if many people have actually heard of, and that is Scooby and Shaggy Do Get a Clue. Now, this show was basically a standalone show for both Scooby and Shaggy. It was supposed to show that they could stand on their own 2 feet without the Mystery Gang. And honestly, looking back at it, I actually thought it did really good at doing that. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. Scooby and Shaggy Do Get a Clue was a standalone show that featured Scooby and Shaggy as the main characters. The Mystery Gang were there, but they weren't really there that often. Right? Fred, Daphne, and Velma did appear in one other episode, but after that, that's about it. Scooby and Shaggy were basically the main focus of this show. The premise was Shaggy had a rich uncle, Uncle Albert, who, as it turns out, was actually a scientist, and a really good one as well, but he was also working undercover, so he was also a spy. Scooby and Shaggy had to find him, but they also inherited his house when he went missing, and like I said, his uncle was rich, so his house was a huge mansion. It even had a butler, a robot butler in this case. In the show, Scooby and Shaggy had to hunt down Uncle Albert and find his whereabouts, and find out why he went missing in the first place. As it turns out, Uncle Albert is he's undercover, working for an evil supervillain known as Vibes. Vibes is a very goofy villain and is hard to take serious, but he's actually pretty entertaining. His henchmen are too. The show itself is mostly comedic, but it has some pretty dramatic moments here or there and some nice character moments, and also some really tight continuity. For a show like this, you would think that it wouldn't really have that much continuity going on, and you'd think that it would just be all over the place, and nothing would make sense. But a lot of things in the show actually do make sense. I like that. Honestly, the characters are really funny, and very entertaining as well. Especially Scooby and Shaggy, who actually do get a lot of development in the show, which is good. Scooby and Shaggy became very interesting characters because of this show, and while I didn't watch the show that much when I was a kid, looking back, honestly, it actually made Scooby and Shaggy pretty likable characters, and very charming characters. They're not as bland as they were in the original Scooby-Doo show. Now they're actually fully fleshed out characters. Later, Scooby and Shaggy would actually become more interesting in the Scooby-Doo show Mystery Incorporated. Though then again, all of the Mystery Gang would actually get a good amount of character development in that show. It's not just Scooby and Shaggy, but anyway. This show had a lot of really fun moments and some nice character back and forths and so on and so forth. Again, the show was mostly comedic, but it had its dramatic and serious moments too, was very character driven and had some tight continuity. So I'd recommend giving it a watch if you can. You can look it up on YouTube or even possibly rent the DVD. Anyway, that's enough. Right. That's it for this episode of Evolution of. If you like this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you had some critiques for this episode, please go in the comment section and let me know what you didn't like and what I can do better. If you want to help this channel get bigger, that's great. If you don't, then that's fine too. If this channel gets big enough, then hopefully I will either get a Patreon or a Twitch, or both, depending on how big my channel gets. Also, have a happy new year. King out. Also, if you want to find me on social media, please don't forget to look in the description. See ya.